everyone, we'll get started. Thank you all for coming tonight to our last history talk of the year. As always, this history talk is being recorded and will be published online on our website and on our YouTube page. So if you'd like to come back to this and re-watch it so you can make sure you learn everything you possibly can can always find it online. Or if there's any friends or family that weren't able to join us tonight that you think would be interested, you're more than welcome to share it with them as well. Come on in. That seat's right at the front. Today, we'll be having one of our board members, as well as longtime Champaign resident, Ian Wang, speaking for us today. After a career in medical sciences in China, Ian Wang has been committed to the role of art in the community, writing for local publications and organizing exhibits to promote local arts and artists. Since 1999, he has been on the Spurlock Museum Advisory Board, serving as president of the board from 2006 to 2008, and has been a curator in the East Asian galleries of the Spurlock Museum. He won the Champaign County Arts Council's annual ACE Awards twice, the Community Advocate Award in 2005, and the Media ACE Award in 2008. Today we'll be hearing about his extensive research into the story of the first museum at the University of Illinois, and how it came into being, bringing history and culture to the Champaign-Urbana area. And now, we'll welcome Ian.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. And this is my almost 30 years interest research. I did not come to research, study this, but when I came to University Spurlock Museum, 1994, and I discovered fascinating stories about Milton Gregory, the first president, and the University Art Museums, and university history. And then so I kept on doing research. Unlike our former mayor, and he's the official historian, but I'm not. But anyway, I just share what I discovered with you. And the first, you won't go. So I press this one, right? And to talk about the first university history museum, we have to go back a tiny bit so you understand the whole story, the importance of the university museum. And the creation of university two Urbana residents. First one is the Jonathan Stoughton, and in 1859 he came up with idea. He wanted, let me move to next picture. So in January 1859, Jonathan Stoughton made a proposal, asking some local well-to-do people to contribute, invest money to buy 200 acres land on the West Urbana at that time. And his idea was he wanted to use 10 acres of this 200 acres land to build Champaign-Urbana or Urbana-Champaign Institute, and to promote Christianity basically. And then his idea was very clever, even it's still working today. If you buy vacant land, not developed land, it's very cheap. And if you use some of the land and develop it, and then it would bring more business come to, and then the rest of 190 acres land would worth much more than what they paid at the beginning. That was his idea. And then a group of people and participated in this project. But one important person was Charles Hunt, and he was the local physician. he was a doctor. He had the much big idea. He wanted to participate in this putting money together, buy 200 acres land, and build Champaign-Urbana Institute. But he wanted to use this as seed money and to get state Illinois to build Illinois University here in Champaign-Urbana. That was his idea. So he participated, but this is a similar idea of the Land Grant University Act. Remember, Land Grant University Act was signed in law by President Lincoln July 2nd, 1862. But these two Urbana residents, they started this idea 4 years before, because they initially came with the idea 1858. I do not know, I did not research if their initial idea was influenced or inspired by the Land Grant University Act, because at that time, this, even it was not in law, but it was in discussion. It was in discussion. And by the way, the Land Grant University Act is absolutely fabulous and very unique, interesting, creative idea. Because at that time, United States, it's young, still in its infancy, and had a vast land not developed. And our founding fathers at that time know how important is higher education for citizens. So, and this guy, Miller, gave this proposal suggestion, saying, let's ask the federal government give those undeveloped vacant land according to each state population. The more population you have, the more land you get. They give you land more than enough for you to build an university or state university. But they ask you to use this vast land they give to you and to use it, whatever, you develop it, you rent it, you sell it. Use this as funding for your state higher education. So that's the concept of the Land Grant University. So, the university here was one of the 37 public land grant institutions established after this Land Grant College Act. The act was signed by Lincoln, President Lincoln, into law. And so at that time, Illinois was one of the 7 commonwealths that had not formed a state university. The grant established eligibility for 480,000 acres of public scrip or land, valued at that time in $600,000. But according to the Act, this is key. According to the Act, a land grant institute could teach agriculture, mechanical arts, and military training. So basically, Casey, there's one chair. Basically, the Land Grant University is a professional training school. It's a professional training school by definition for each state to train, to produce their manpower and the professions. So that's the key. And so, by 1865, the offer of Urbana-Champaign Institute to become UI's first building had been approved by the House of Illinois General Assembly. And on May 7, 8, and 9, 1867, the Urbana-Champaign Institute building was formally transferred to Illinois State. So on March 2nd, 1868, the Illinois Industrial University opened its door to the first class in this building. So at that time, when the university opened, the whole university just in this one single building, donated by Urbana residents and to the university on condition if the Illinois state government decide to locate this university in Champaign-Urbana. So I don't know why it took 3 days to transfer, but anyway, that's the his historical document. And then because this building was lonely, when they bought the 200-acre land, they deliberately to buy the undeveloped land in the West Urbana or West Champaign at that time. And so when the university started in this building, so this building was only one building or big building on the vast vacant prairie. So students gave it a nickname, Elephant. If you see the old photos, it really, especially in the winter, foggy, whatever, you do see a big elephant on the west of Champaign. And that's the inauguration, the opening ceremony, March 11, 1868, and the university started here in this single building. That's a historical archive photo. And this, I like art, and this is one of the dean of students. He did one of the famous, and the most famous Champaign-Urbana Christmas cards series, and this is one of them. But this wood carving prints was that building. And university started. One of the board trustees and heard John Gregory's speech in Chicago. He was so impressed. So he recommended the board trustees to appoint John Gregory to be the first regent or president of the university. So that's the photo at that time. This is a photo, John Gregory, and this is engraving, and based on that photo, and then that's the at that time. So the whole story began here. As we said, we know it's land grant university, so basically it's a technical school. It's a technical school. However, John Gregory had a totally different, profound vision about where he wanted the university to establish to. And then, so that's another. I just want to show you this slide because I want to show you what's the cost at that time. Okay, one semester tuition was $15, and the rent for room was $4 per semester. Okay, so everything, the offices, classrooms, dormitories, kitchen, everything is in one building.
How many students?
If I remember, first year they had 78, I think. But anyway, it's 70 something. I think it's 78. Well, I have, yeah. But anyway, So the university started. I found this archives just interesting, and this one is admission, and this is someone offered to enroll to the university, and this is the first graduating class 1872. However, then John Gregory came on board. He had a totally profound vision about the university. So from the day one, as a university president, John Gregory firmly believed that education must fit for society and citizenship, as well as science and industry. Men should be primarily educated as a human being and only secondary for his occupation. Gregory called a university to produce clear-headed, broad-breasted scholars, men of fully developed minds who would be valuable citizens capable of taking their places in legislative assemblies or other positions to which they might be called from their normal occupations. You see the difference. So, for me, he wanted to cultivate real men rather than just to teach them skills, technique, and so on and so forth. So that's why. And then John Gregory's design was to establish an institute firmly grounded in the liberal arts tradition, because in order to cultivate men to produce, according to his definition, the real men, they are not only need technical training and science, but they need to have a high moral standard, politically correct, and physically fit, and creative, and so on and so forth. So that's what he wanted to do. So, therefore, the first three colleges he established were the College of Agriculture, and Applied Arts and Science. At that time was called the College of Literary Science, then followed by College of Engineer. Essentially, Gregory proposed the curriculum. He promoted the establishment of classical liberal arts education in addition to the anticipated industrial and agricultural education. So that's the ad at that time, the first four colleges. And that's the agriculture college, it's a join. And that's the, moral plots, it's a pencil drawing by someone. And that's the, actually, this was the architectural design of college engineer building. So that's the building, and built according to that design. And now we need to talk about a little bit of John Gregory. John Gregory studied law in New York. After graduation, he did not really go into the law field. He went to State, Michigan, and first he was the superintendent of private Christian school, and later he created the local magazine Education to promote education, and then I think 3 or 4 years later he became the superintendent of State Michigan Education. And so he's a real educator, true Christian, and very, very good writing. And then when he came to university became president. That's what he wrote. University answer him, university anthem, and the UI motto came from his university hymn. So he created all of this. And because he was a humanity-focused curriculum, so the first colleges, early colleges he studied, you can see agriculture, arts, engineering, art and design, medicine, library science and information. Those are not current names, but at that time it was different names. Okay, and medicine, liberal arts, and library arts and the science, applied health sciences, all focused on the humanity. The thinking and the philosophy behind the creation of UI art collection and the art gallery museums. In the early 1870s, when the university is still in its infancy, and John Gregory recognized a great university must reflect a university of experience, interest, and inquiry. Also, Gregory noticed and pointed out that anytime I talk about this, Illinois citizens shoot their head. Okay, see, many of the university students at that time read on farms and in small towns had never seen a really beautiful man-made thing, object. And he determined to lift them above the limits of their environment. Therefore, John Gregory requested, you can sit on floor.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. And so John Gregory requested Board of Trustees give him $1,500 to collect art to Europe, to collect art, and bring back to set up University Art Museum for this poor Illinois students. They grew up in the farmland. In their whole life, they haven't seen a really beautiful man-made thing. But unfortunately, because nobody, well, I can't say nobody, hardly any people at that time, including board of trustees and state governments, understood his vision. Because they do not understand, they could not support. So they rejected his request. But John Gregory was determined. He raised $300,000 by himself, and from his pocket, he paid for his trip, used his own money, went to Europe to collect art. He wanted the classic art, but for the funds he got, he could not buy those original classic. And also these classic sculptures, they were not for sale. The Roman Greek sculptures, they were not for sale. So what John Gregory did, he paid living artists at that time, asked to make a casting on those classic sculptures and made plaster sculptures and brought them back. But in the meantime, his $3,000 enabled him to buy, to cast this, big classic sculptures, Laocoon and Venus de Miller and so on and so forth. Then he bought some 42 reduced size busters and 68 full size and 28 reduced size busts from Homer to individuals then living. The collection also contained the busts of 23 ideal heads, many bas reliefs and the medallion heads. And there were 127 photographs of famous paintings and 92 Italian and Swiss sceneries and 388 lithographs and historical portraits. And he shipped all his collections back. But sadly and shockingly, when he opened the cradle after cradle, all those sculptures broken into pieces. But he did not give up. He did not give up. Then he asked one of the professors, a geology professor, and to lead a group of students, most of them art students, to piece those sculptures together and repair. And in our life, we say, when there was a disaster, when you deal with it, it may get another opportunity of greater thing. So, at that time, Loretta Taft was 12 years old. And his father was the professor leading those repairs, put this together. I did not research, I did not study, but my guess was because that project, that participation inspired him, that's why he later studied the sculpture and became one of the famous sculptors his time. So, on January 1st, 1875, few weeks from today, first John Gregory's Art Museum on campus opened at the third floor of University Hall, because at that time University Hall just built, because the elephant were the first building a few years earlier was damaged by storm, the corner, so they built this University Hall to replace that one. Anyway, so as reported in the Chicago Tribune, this grand collection is now the largest west of New York. Indeed, the Art Institute of Chicago was then several years away. And the University Art Museum was only a few years younger than the New York Metropolitan Museum of Art, which opened its door on February 2nd, 1872. So, our university art museum was the largest in the Middle West. However, the best tribute came from students who said of the art gallery, there were in history, some people call it an art gallery, some call it art museum. So those two are interchangeable, but I think it's a museum. The best tribute from students in the art gallery, it opened a new approach in all our lives. The Illini Campus newspaper went further and regarded the gallery as a part of new national artistic awakening. So that's a historical photo of University Hall, and unfortunately, this beautiful, beautiful University Hall was demolished to give way to build the Illini Union Building. But fortunately, another university in the nation liked the design, so commissioned the same architects built exactly the same building, and now today it's still in working. So that's the archive photo, and that's at the time. This photo was then the museum display. And then there's a UI student, art student painted the university hall, and the same student, that one, early one was oil painting, this one is watercolor, and that's a photograph of the entrance of university hall. And that's another, that's the dean of students, Fred Turner. So wood carving of the first, this is not university. Yeah. And now the entrance of university hall, when it was demolished, was lying somewhere, and some years ago Helen and donated money to remove this, relocate this to build. Now it's standing next to the alumni welcome center. Now it's a symbol of a gate of our university. And that's a pencil drawing. And then that's the university hall, that's oil painting. And that's, okay, we just go quick through this. So, on July 8th, 1911, University Board of Trustees approved the establishment of European Cultural Museum, the Classical Museum, which later joined by Oriental Museum and merged as a World Culture and Heritage Museum, now Spurlock Museum. And this photo was the ribbon cutting when Spurlock Museum was built and opened its door, and September 26, 2002. And that's the watercolor painting of the Spurlock Museum, and that's the to celebrate the opening Spurlock Museum, and I designed this red soil painting, the red soil from my hometown, and did this relief sculpture painting dedicated to the Spurlock Museum staff. And I served as president, so we don't need to do this. So, more than 150 years have passed since Gregory became the university's first president. There's no doubt in my mind that he should be largely credited with establishing the university to become it is today. Essentially, John Gregory's curriculum promoted the establishment of classical liberal arts education in addition to the anticipated industrial and agricultural education. But, as I said, unfortunately, his vision could not be understood and therefore could not be supported by most of the people and the governments of our state at that time. Gregory faced oppositions, as some in Illinois held a different interpretation of the Land Grant Act, arguing that courses in classical studies such as literature, languages, and arts should not be taught. For example, in the university's inaugural address, Dr. Newton Batman outlined the various interpretations of the Memorial Act or Land Grant University Act in his speech. The debate between the liberal arts curriculum and the industrial education continued during the entire era of John Gregory's presidency. Nevertheless, John Gregory continued to promote the teaching of the classics because fundamentally his overall goal was for the university to cultivate and to produce real men rather than only to teach students practical knowledge and occupations skills, which was at odds with many state residents and lawmakers who only could see the university's role was to offer classes based solely around the industrial education. Consequently, John Gregory, more than 13 years tenure, was marred by this debate. Clashes between Gregory and the legislators, lawmakers, the board trustees forced his resignation. They did not physically force him to resign, but he himself basically said, enough is enough. I can't do anymore. So he resigned. He resigned by saying, I am staggering under too heavy a load of cares and irritated by what has sometimes seemed as needless opposition. So this is a quote from In 99 Years, the book. So he resigned and moved to DC. John Gregory passed away on October 10th, 1898 in DC. He wished or asked to be buried in the university grounds. It was resolved by the UI Board of Trustees. So he was allowed to be buried 10 yards from the footpath every day. He walked from his residency to his office. Do anyone know where he's buried?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Many students don't know. Now you know. But however, when he was buried, 1898 until 1914, his burial had no tomb, no tombstone, even did not have a name tag. So nobody knew John Gregory, or I can't say nobody knew, but most people did not know John Gregory was buried there. Then this whole thing changed. Edmund James became the 5th university president. Edmund James is another real educator and a scholar. He got his PhD in education from Germany. Before he came to UFI, he was the president of Northwestern University. When he came on board as president, he had 4 major agendas he wanted to do. The first one was to further develop the university. So, in doing so, he re-evaluated John Gregory's approach. So we talk this way. The second agenda, he wanted physically further develop university. So I was told by my friend, the former professor and Spolak Museum director, 1/3 of current university buildings were built during his tenure. Then the third, these are not in the importance sequence, but just these 4 agenda. He wanted to attract national, international scholars, whatever, come to teach or give lecture to have connections with the university. It's not globalization, but he just wanted to get the best scholars come to work or teach research on the university. So in this, he connected China, France, Germany, and other international communities. But we are not going to talk about those. That's another book. And then the last one, because he was an educator, he wanted to have education lab. So he wanted to build university high lab school as a part of College of Education real lab. So that's how University High School was established during his tenure. So now we come back to John Gregory's story. So President James reevaluated and recognized John Gregory's vision and approach for the direction and the development of the university. In following Gregory's footsteps and carrying on his vision for the university, President James lobbied to have a rededication of John Gregory's burial and memorial. And this is another, I'm not an official historian, so I can say this. Okay. As president of university, he lobbied this for 10 years to get it done. So he came aboard 1904 and started lobbying the state, the Board of Trustees, to have a rededication burial ceremony for John Gregory. But until 1914, he achieved his goal. But I was told it's unofficial. Okay, don't quote on me. And in order to get it done, he inserts his personal agenda, this agenda, rededication of the tomb or burial for John Gregory, into the homecoming event. And so the homecoming was Friday evening, Saturday whole day. Then he did the rededication Sunday morning. Okay, don't quote on me. Okay, but anyway, that's the interesting part. So the president of University Board of Trustees, at the address of John Gregory's rededication, memorial dedication, June 16, 1914. We are not dedicating a monument. Dr. Gregory's splendid monument lies all about you. And significantly, the Alumni Association asked the memorial of Dr. Gregory shall be in the form of a memorial building and the art gallery museum. So you see his influence, his achievement was really those students, university students. The university indeed later built a Gregory Hall and continued displaying many sculptures and John Gregory purchased. But that's interesting. Oh, we want to show you this one. See what Edmund James wrote here on this plaque. Oh, by the way, the tombstone was a piece of native Illinois rock. No carving, nothing. They just put on top of his burial ground. And Edmund James wrote the epitaph for John Gregory. If you search his monument, look about you. We know where this came from. The architect, St. Paul Cathedral, when he died, he was buried in the basement of St. Paul Cathedral. On his tombstone is carved. It was in Latin. It was in Latin. However, if translated into English, it's this. If you search his achievements, look around you. He was architect. His achievement was the cathedral, St. Paul Cathedral. He was buried in the basement of the cathedral. So if you look for his achievement, you look around the building, right? That's his achievement. But Edmund James changed the 2 words of this epitaph. One, if you seek his achievement, change it to his monument. Look around you, change it to look about you. It says everything. It's perfect, absolutely accurate. That's what So, for the past 150 years, Gregory's significant collections has been monumentally on display in university museums, galleries, and in nowadays Spurlock Museum. I'll tell you a sad story. Some years ago, Illinois government could not pass the budget. So all the funding, many funding come to university were cut or could not. So university asked all departments, institutes, whatever, departments to cut their budget, give a percentage. And then they asked the Spurlock Museum to cut more budgets than Crandall Museum because someone said because the contents, collections at Crandall Museum were more valuable than those reproductions in the Spurlock Museum. But those people, they did not know what they do not know, the importance. Even those were casting reproduction of the sculptures. However, we reproduced, casted them 150 years ago. Many of the original sculptures may no longer there or damaged because of nature, because of war, because of disasters. So now, if you want to see those classical sculptures in good condition, you have to come to Spurlock Museum to see, because we reproduced them, casted them, or when I say we, I mean John Gregory University, 150 years ago. That's the lecture. Thank you. We have 10 minutes now.